we're going to take today, our goal is to be able to be given information and write an equation of a line. Last chapter, we were given the equation already, and we worked on just being able to graph it. We're going to work in the opposite direction now. We're going to start with some few review pieces. So slope-intercept form, that is our y equals mx plus b. So you'll fill in the blanks on your note sheet. Where m equals or stands for the slope of your line, and b is your y-intercept. We can use a bunch of different things. We always described it as rise over run. So rise divided by your run, which is another way of saying your change in x divided by your change in y. And we could use a formula to do that easily. We're going to use our y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. Remember, the little numbers underneath the subscripts just stand for that we have different points. And we have two of them. So we take y2 minus y1. Let's just find the difference in our y values. x2 minus x1 is the difference in our x values. And then our last bullet point, the y-intercept is where the linear equation, we would say it's where it crosses the y-axis. So that whole box is review. We're going to use this information that we already know and apply it to something new. So to start, for these first four examples, it says write the slope-intercept form of the equation of each line given that we already have the slope and the y-intercept. So we're writing these in the form y equals mx plus b. So we're filling in numbers for m and for b. A, that our m value is 2 and our y-intercept is 5. So we're just replacing, in our equation, we're replacing m with 2 and y with 5. So I'm going to do those in different colors to show what I'm replacing. But we're writing this as y is equal to 2x, and then it's a plus 5, so we're writing plus 5. And that's all we're doing for these first four. Just taking our m and our b and putting it into a line. So this next one, again, we have a slope of 2, but our y-intercept is negative 2. So y is equal to, again, our slope always goes with our x term, and then our minus 2 in the back. Since it is a negative 2, our y-intercept, this has to be a negative 2 as well. Again, same idea. Always pay attention to our signs. Oh, it's small, but it's a negative 5. A slope of 5 and slope of negative 5 are two very different things. So to make sure this is negative 5, we would make two different lines. So negative 5x, and then we have a plus 1 for our y-intercept. And lastly, we have a slope of 7, but our y-intercept is 0. We don't have to write on the plus 0 to the back. We can just have our slope in there. Y is equal to 7x. So you can always think to yourself, when there's not a number in the back, it's 0. So if this is going to be, I have the test for this unit already. I have the test and the quiz already written. And I know which is your mild, medium, and spicy problems. This would be like a mild problem. It would get you 1 point on your test or quiz or whatever. There is one like this on the test. This is the very first problem. These next examples will be what we call a medium problem, where it's just a little bit harder because it's a different context. Now, instead of me giving you two things, all I do is I give you a graph. You can find both things from the graph. You just have to know what you're looking for. First thing we're looking for still is our slope, right? What's the quickest way if we're given a graph to find the slope? You should all say, count the boxes. Count how many we have to go up and over. So if we have to go from 0, -3, we're trying to get even with our other point going from left to right. We have to go up 6 boxes. So plus 6. That's our change in y. To get from the other point to the other, we would have to go to the right 4. So we write plus 4. We have to make that a slope though. We take our change in y divided by our change in x. Our change in y is plus 6. Our change in x is plus 4. So our slope is 6/4. I'm always going to look to reduce. I mentioned this last week. We're going to always look to reduce because we're going to start multiplying by slopes. And if the smaller, we like to multiply by small numbers instead of big numbers. 6 and 4, not huge, but we would much rather multiply by 3 and 2. All right, 6/4 reduced is the same thing as 3/2. So we have our slope. We know what our m is. I'm going to put a half dash circle in there because I know this is a part of my final answer. It's not my final answer. What else we need is our b value or our y-intercept. We're going to look to the graph for this. We're given our y-axis. So we're looking for the point where our linear equation crosses the y-axis, so where the two intersect. And that's right here. So this is 0, -3. Again, this is an x coordinate and a y coordinate. So we want the y coordinate of it, since this is a y-intercept. So our y-intercept is -3. Again, y-intercept and b are synonymous, or the same thing. So we could say our b is plus 3. So it's not. You guys should be like, oh no, that's not right. It's -3. It's down here. Gotta make sure we're paying attention. Let's see if you guys were paying attention. Everybody just don't just blindly copy down what I put up there. Keep your head in the game. So now we're gonna take this piece of information and this piece of information and put it into our y equals mx plus b. So just like how we did in the problem above. Now we have our two pieces of information. We just need to write our line. Y is equal to our m value, which is 3/2 x minus 3. When I write this, I'm purposely doing it in different colors so you know that when you're writing a line, y equals and x are always going to be in there. Those are not things or variables that you're changing. The only variable that you're changing is your m and your b. So we could take all of our steps here, apply it exactly the same to that the problem right next to it. We have a line that's going downhill now. So should our slope be positive or negative? Negative. So we're going to count down this time, and since we're counting down, we have to remember it's a negative change. So we count down 3, so that's -3, and we count over 4. So we would write our m value as -3/4. Again, that can't be reduced at all. So we're there find just a halfway answer. What's my b value, or my y-intercept? 2. We know it's 2 because we look along our y-axis. Boom, this is where our line crosses. At the point 0, 2. 2 is our y-intercept. So we say it's plus 2. We put it into an equation of a line now. Y is equal to negative 3/4 x plus 2. So if we were to work backwards, last week I would have given you this, then you would have ended up graphing that. Now we're working in reverse direction. You can kind of see, if you remember on Friday, we did the Desmos activity. We were trying to catch the stars. This is what you were just trying to do. I always said, what has to be y equals mx plus b. You have to find the slope that caught all the stars and put your line high enough or low enough so it was level. So that would be kind of like a 2-point question on our test or a quiz. Now again, we're just going to push the difficulty a little bit more, only because we're finding one thing. Here, almost everything is a given. On these 2 problems below, we're going to have to do some more calculations. We're not given anything on a graph. All we're given is 2 points. We want to write an equation of a line that goes through both of these points. Always think, to write an equation, you need 2 things. You need a slope and you need a y-intercept. So we're trying to find an m and we're trying to find a b. First thing that I would do is label my points, because we're going to use our y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So I would label 0, 3, x1, y1, and this as x2, y2. Just saying, okay, there's our first point, there's our second point. We're going to find the slope between those 2 points. If you already have your slope formula written down on the box up top, you don't have to write it again. But I'm just going to put it in here so it's in the same spot. y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. Writing this formula out and labeling your points makes it a lot easier instead of just trying to keep all this straight in your head. It's super easy just to mix up a spot between an x and a y. If you write it like this each time and label your points, I guarantee you'll only mess up probably about 5% of the time, opposed to you may mess up half of the time if you don't do this. So your y2 number, you're just plugging it in. So our y2 number is -7, so it takes the place minus whatever our y1 number is, so -3, divided by our x2 number is -2, minus our y1 number, which is 0. So we take -7 minus 3, we get -10. We take -2 minus 0, we're left with -2. What's -10 divided by -2? 5. So we have a slope of +5. So you can see now why this would be a spicy question, because you have to go through and find the slope and you're not able to just count. You have to remember how to find slope. How can we find our b value, or is it already given to us? Are one of those 2 points a y-intercept? Yes, how do you know? One of them is, which one do we think it is? Which one's our y-intercept do we think? 0, 3 or -2, -7? Look back at your other y-intercept points that you had in the prior two examples. 0, 3. Your y-intercepts will always start with 0 in the x term. So the point 0, 3 is our y-intercept. So we take 3 as our b value. So now we can write y is equal to 5x plus 3. And I should change these to red to keep it consistent. All right. So again, same thing as always. You just find the slope in your b value. We're going to do one more example together. I'm actually going to change these numbers, and we're going to use one from the back. So I'm going to change it to we're going to do 1 comma. So change the points on 3a to 1 comma -1, and the other one will be 3 comma -11. These are the 2 points we're going to use instead. Why I chose to do these 2 points is so you have an example of, now we can see none of those are y-intercepts. So we're going to have to do a new process to figure out what our b value is. And this is, I would say, the most difficult thing in this section. Because I think there's the biggest struggle I always see is just people don't know where to put the numbers. They know what all their numbers mean. They just don't know where to put them. So I'm going to try to break it down simply. First thing you always do is find your slope. So again, I'm going to label these points using our x1, y1 stuff, and our x2, y2. So then we can easily subtract them to find our m value. So this would be -11 minus -1 divided by 3 minus 1. So we're doing our numerator first, -11 minus -1. Subtracting a negative is the same thing as what? Addition. So I say this turns into what we call a chunky plus, because if you connect the two, make it a plus sign. So our chunky plus. So we're taking -11 plus 1, which is -10. We take 3 minus 1, which is 2. So what is the value of our slope? -5. Again, this is a halfway answer. Hold on, you sit right by Amira in the pink. Our next, we don't know what our b is, but we have a way to find b. What we're gonna do is we're gonna plug in a point for x and y. So things we have a point. It doesn't matter which point we use. I always like to choose the one that has smaller numbers. So we're going to use this 1 and -1. That's going to take place of our x and our y. X is going to be subbed in for 1. Y is going to be -1 is going to be subbed in for y. We know what our slope is. We know our m value is 5. B, we don't know what B is. B is what we're trying to find. So we could do this. We can solve for b using our slope-intercept form. So that's y equals mx plus b. And now I'm going to plug in different things. I'm going to plug in this -1 is a y value. So that's what I'm going to plug in for y. This is going to be -1. Right, equals to m is 5. So I'm going to plug 5 in for m. And this +1 is an x value. So I'm plugging 1 in for x. I don't have anything for b, so I'm writing plus b. Now this is an equation that we can solve. If we simplify a little bit, we have -1 is equal to 5 plus b. Oh, I messed up somewhere. Does anybody notice what I didn't add? Not the 1. I had the 5. We found originally that our slope should be -5. So this should be -5 and this should be a -5 here. So this should be a -1 equals -5 plus b. So what does b have to be? B is equal to what? How do you solve for b? What do you have to do to both sides? Somebody's got to say it. We need to know how to do this. How do we solve for b? Yeah.
So basically, you add 5 to -5, and then that crosses stuff out, and you add it to the -1, and then you add this together in 4 equals b.
So 4 equals b. So our last thing is we need to put all these pieces of information together. So you write our line as y is equal to -5x plus 4. This, we're going to spend another day on this. We'll focus more tomorrow on being able to solve for b will be our main focus tomorrow. So what I want